I'm honored here to be chatting with a man who's become a great friend of our show, Carl Erskine, on the passing of his teammate, Ralph Branca. And it's Thanksgiving week 2016, and Mr. Erskine, as always, is generous of his time and his courtesy, and I am ever so honored to speak with him. Carl, how are you this day?
Tony, thank you. I'm enjoying a day in Indiana that's kind of cloudy, but a fall day, and at home after a big dinner on Thanksgiving with family. So life is good, and I hate to brag, but I feel like bragging.
You have every reason to, and I would like to express to you my condolences in the passing of your teammate Ralph Branca.
Yes, well, Ralph was one of the first players befriending me when I joined the team in 1948 in mid-season. I had been called up from the Texas League after just a year and a half in the minors, and DeRocher was looking hard for pitching, and I happened to be having a pretty good year in Fort Worth, Texas. I'd won 15 by mid-July, and so I joined the team, and Ralph, incidentally, Jackie Robinson was the first guy to my locker when I came up and joined the team in Pittsburgh on Sunday, July 25th, 1948. The reason Jackie was there first was because I had pitched in a spring game against the big team in Fort Worth before the season opened. It was an exhibition game. That was an affiliate of the Dodgers, Fort Worth AA. And I'd pitched against the big team that day. And after the game, Robinson came to the Fort Worth dugout and said, "Where's Erskine?" And it surprised me. I didn't know Jackie and didn't know anybody on the big team except the names. But Jackie shook my hand. He said, "Young man, I hit against you twice today. You're not going to be in this league very long." Boy, what a boost for a rookie kid to get from Jackie. So when I did join the team very shortly after that, Jackie was the first guy to my locker and shook my hand the second time and said, "I told you, you couldn't miss." Well, that was a huge boost for me. But Branca was one of the starting pitchers along with the three Bs, Barney, Branca, and Banta. Now, you haven't heard much about Barney or Banta, two hard throwers who both ended up with arm trouble. But Branca, of course, stayed on and was a productive pitcher, had a good win-loss percentage, three-time All-Star, and Ralph's career, of course, was marked forever by the Thompson home run in the playoffs that cost us the National League pennant. So Ralph lived with a kind of a heavy load, but it brought out his greatest character of dealing with a very difficult. He got some hate mail. He got a lot of boos after that. But as time passed, Ralph went into history with Bobby Thompson as having participated by the New York writers who voted that that incident of the shot heard around the world, a home run by Thompson, was the greatest sports event of the last century in New York. I couldn't believe what a status that took on. But it linked Ralph in history, baseball history, with one of the greatest, maybe the greatest event. And so instead of being looked at as the hero and the GOAT, which was the early take, Ralph became a piece of history. He made a lot of card shows. He was very great with the fans. He did not let that taint his appreciation for baseball or the fans. And so Ralph was, as Josh Prager writes in his book called Echoing Green, he researched, he's a writer for the New York, or for the Wall Street Journal. He wrote a book called Echoing Green, but in it he says that Thompson basked in the hero light, but he knew that they cheated with a telescope in the center field. So he said Thompson, in a way, was the dodger. He dodged the truth. And that Branca was the giant because of the dignity in which he handled this real difficult role of having been the pitcher who threw the fatal pitch. It was a great twist. I thought it was a great literary view of Thompson being the Dodger and Branca being the giant. But it was true that Ralph carried himself with dignity, never alibied, and was really great with fans who at one time, kind of looked at him with the idea that he wore the horns of the goat. But Ralph and I were close friends, and our families were very close. Kind of raised our kids together as we played. So it's tough to lose a teammate.
Yeah, for certain. And the 1952 season, you guys are checking into Vero, getting ready for the start. What was Ralph's attitude coming back in 52? Was he still bearing some of what happened in 51, or did he put it behind him? And I realize he got hurt shortly after that.
Yeah, those days are vague to me by this time, but I don't ever recall. We were actually very young, early 20s, early mid-20s, but we were professionals. We did have to look at today, not what happened yesterday. And you come back after spring training, into fresh spring training, it's like a new chapter. You're starting over, your record's clear, you don't have any wins or losses. You're going to build on your experience of the past. But I don't remember any crybaby, spilt milk attitude. Ralph was a big, strong guy, and nobody needled him, or I don't remember him taking any heat from the other benches during that next season in 52. That was a dramatic finish in the National League where we were ahead 13 and a half games and got tied at the end. Then the word came out later that the Giants had cheated with a telescope and all that, but that was all behind us, and we were on one-year contracts. So Ralph, like the rest of us, he had to produce in 52. The Dodgers had a big farm system with about 200 pitchers in the minors. You had to earn your right to stay in the big leagues year after year. And so I think we all focused a lot on what was in front of us. And I just don't remember that Ralph, although the fans never let that go away right away, but on the field and in our competition with other teams, Ralph was just a hard-nosed pitcher. And I always reminded Ralph, I don't know if it was that year or not, but I was pitching against the Phillies, and I had a 2-1 lead, but I got the bases loaded in the ninth inning and nobody out, and they brought Ralph in to relieve me, and he struck out the side, saved my win. So I always reminded him of that and thanked him over and over again. But, the starters used to relieve some in our day. We didn't have closers per se, but on the middle day between our starts every 4 days, on the throwing day in between, the manager would often tell us to throw late in the game, to get our workout late in the game. He might use us for an inning. And so I noticed Ralph had 19 saves. I had 13 saves. That seems insignificant, but
as starting pitchers, yeah.
Starting pitchers,
different era.
Pitched the last inning or two.
And do you feel that Ralph, through his life, I mean, they always said that he had borne the cross well. Was he burdened by giving up the home run, or did he just accept it and move forward? I mean, the man had a marvelous life. He had a great professional career. He was beloved by many, and there was no outward signs of any pity or anything like that. I mean, when you guys finished playing, what were your impressions of him?
No, I think you're right. No, Ralph, again, his character was, and he had support. We were teammates, but it was part of the game. We'd all had days when we blew a lead or threw the big home run at the end of the game. We'd all been there, but we'd never been under the pressure that Ralph had, where the pennant was on the line with that pitch. But no, Ralph went on, and one of the things I hope will be written about and part of his legacy. Ralph was selected, along with a few other players, former, probably most of us were player reps. Uberoff, when he was commissioner, he began to hear about a lot of guys in the woodwork, old-timers, complaining in the press about the pension plan and that the current guys were making all the money. And so Uberoff formed what was called Baseball Assistance Team, BAT, and it was a foundation to help widows of former players, members of the baseball family. It could be an umpire, it could be a minor league, anybody that was a member of the baseball family. And so he formed this board of trustees, and it was made up almost all players. And Ralph was the chairman of that. And Ralph got that foundation off and running, and we were able to give grants, sometimes about $1 million a year, close to it, to baseball widows who were about to lose their house for payment, mortgage payment. We helped a lot of players who fell between the cracks, had medical problems or alcohol maybe or other things. That was a very satisfying experience to be able, after our playing days, to find a way to assist members of the baseball family. And Ralph was one of the key people in that in the early years. I think it's mentioned, but I don't think it gives the emphasis that Ralph gave himself to the good of the game and to form other players when he didn't have to. Ralph was well off. He married well. He married Ann Mulvey, whose dad, James Mulvey, was the fourth owner of the Dodgers. And so eventually Ann and her brothers and sisters inherited the ownership of the Dodgers.
Of the club, yes.
But anyway, so Ralph was not he was not one to go hide and say, I'm glad I'm out of the game and taking all the heat. He stayed connected to the game through the BAT organization. And so I hope that's a strong part of his legacy.
Well, we've certainly memorialized that today, Carl, and I realize you have a busy morning and afternoon coming up, so no need for me to keep you any further. My best to you, my best to Betty, and you have a great day, and we'll be talking soon, my friend. Thank you for being on today.
Tony, my pleasure anytime, and best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.